Hi everyone, good evening. Hope all are safe and healthy. I am Padma Priya. I am a Women Techmaker Ambassador for Madurai. If any of the participant is new to our session, I will tell you what is WTM. Actually, Women Techmakers is one of the program which provides visibility and community and resource for women in technology. So our WTM Madurai support students, working professionals and entrepreneurs, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all for Code Together with GitHub live session. The main objective of this session is to make students, developers to understand what is GitHub and why GitHub is important when we work as a team. And also knowing GitHub will be an add-on for students when they go for an interview. And in this session, we will cover the basics of GitHub and how to contribute to open source projects using GitHub. And here I have Miss Soundarya, who is working in GeeksUp as a program coordinator, and she is a co-host for our session. And also, I will tell you what is GeeksUp. Actually, GeeksUp is a company which is identifying and empowering individuals from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. They used to organize many events and programs. Recently, they have introduced 10 days online digital marketing training. It is only for 30 people. You can check GeeksUp website also. And if you would like to hear more about GeeksUp, you can contact GeeksUp program coordinator Ms. Soundarya at the end of the session. And it's my privilege to introduce Mr. Abhishek Mishra, who is holding multiple titles. Yeah, he's a software engineer at Essentia, and he's a Google Developers Group Coorganiser of Chennai, and he's a big Python enthusiast. I think we can say he loves Python language, and he's a organizer of PyCon India. PyCon India is the largest gathering of Pythonists in India for the Python programming language. And I am happy to have him as a speaker of our session. Thank you so much for accepting our invite for the session, Mr. Abhishek. First, he will explain about Git and GitHub basics, and there will be a hands-on. We have a question and answer session, so you guys can use chat box if you have any question at the end of the session. Now I request Mr. Abhishek to take over the session. Welcoming you, Abhishek.
Thank you so much, Padmashri and Sambhara. It's really my privilege to give a talk in WT Madurai, and so thanks a lot the entire team, including Padma Priya and the entire team. So thank you so much. I'm really glad that you invited me to give a talk on this, although it's like a very essential thing for developers nowadays and going forward as well. So yeah, thanks again. I'll just start the talk right now. So before starting the talk, I'll just set a little bit expectations. So this entire session will have a two parts. So first part, I'll be talking about the little bit of fundamentals of what GitHub is and what are the different paradigms of that. Okay. And in second half, I'll be actually going through the practical stuff. I will show you the tutorials sort of thing where I'll be creating a repository and how to set up like a basic repository, the different commands and all stuff. And if time also permits, I'll definitely gonna talk about a little bit of open source contribution. All depends on time. So let's start with it. So code together with GitHub. So in this session, we are not only gonna talk about GitHub, so we are also gonna talk about Git, what exactly it is, and then how we can leverage the power of Git plus GitHub to be a very nice developer and to improve our development process. Right. So here is the agenda that I'm gonna talk about in this session. I'll just give a little bit brief about myself, what I do. And after that, there is again a set of expectation from this talk, what I'm going to include in this talk and what I'm not. And then a quick walkthrough over GitHub and like what is the exact difference between Git and GitHub. And showtime is basically where I'm going to show practically how to do all this sort of commands, how to create a Git repo, how to push the code, how to do PRs and all these things. And also, if time permits, definitely I would speak about best practices that you can follow, and then common mistakes to avoid, and sort of open source contribution again. No, not an issue. So the entire agenda of this talk is to give you a glimpse of what exactly Git and GitHub is, apart from only focusing on open source contribution. Probably next session, like I would be really interested in giving a talk on that as well with the WTM Madurai, but probably we can do that in the next talk, and then a conclusion what exactly you should do. So hello everyone, good evening. I hope everyone is doing good. Take care of yourself. I mean, this pandemic is there and giving a tough time to people. So my name is Abhishek Mishra. I'm a software engineer at Essentia Softserv. I am also a co-organizer of GDG Chennai, Google Developers Group, and PyCon India, which is a Python conference on a country level. And I'm always a community person, community first person. Usually, if you are around the Chennai, you would definitely find me over weekends, at least before the pandemic, like hanging around people inside a community on a different meetup groups. And I'm not a 10x engineer as well. If you want to connect with me over Twitter or LinkedIn, you can reach out to me to the handle @stalwartcoder. And if you have any doubts, even apart from this talk, you can definitely reach out to me on that. So coming to the part, I'm going to talk about Git and GitHub basics, okay? And then I'll also show you the practical examples with the basic setup and workflow. What are the different strategies that developers use on day-to-day basis, depending on their project level, like what sort of workflow they set, what kind of strategies they use for creating branching, doing a release cycle and all stuff. So just to give a like certain expectation, this talk is not going to be a complete workshop where we will be following up with each other. It's not going to be that way. Once the talk is done, I'll show you some sort of code, the tutorials, and then in that, if you have some questions, and apart from that, also if you have some questions, definitely you can ask for that. And I am also not going to talk about more on open source contribution, like how exactly you can begin that. Definitely we can take that part in Q&A, but that part is actually out of scope a little bit from this talk. So let's talk about Git. I'll hardly take like 20 minutes for entire session to give a talk on this. So basically Git is a distributed version control system, and again it was created by Linus Torvalds, which is again a creator of Linux kernel. And the Git was released in 2005. So when I was in college, I got introduced to Git, and then the moment when question comes to me, hey, it's a version control tool, I was like, what does it mean exactly? What exactly that is? Like version control tool, I don't even know what exactly that is. We know the versions of app, like, hey, this app got a new versions and all that. But in terms of code, I'll tell you what exactly that is. So always people have question version control, and that too with a distributed version control. What does it mean? So just to give you like a basic understanding, a version control system is system that keeps record of your changes. Okay, so changes, any sort of changes related to your code, the changes that happen in your file. Okay, so whatever is there inside your code repository, for example. So there are a few terminologies, and I will explain you during the practical time. Okay, so don't worry about those jargons. So repository is right now you can consider it as a like a bunch of folders. Okay, inside a main folder. So basically, whatever files, whatever objects are there, they keep on changing. Okay, over the time, you might delete some files, you might update some files. Okay, and that is something people always worry about. Like, hey, what if I want to get the previous version of this code? How do I do that? So people developed systems which is called as version control system, where you can keep records of your changes, the history. And basically there are sort of things which this tools allows you to do. It allows to do a collaborative development. I'll talk about that in some like in future, like in coming slides. And then it also lets you know like who made what changes and when. So like a sort of timestamp on the file changes, what sort of changes has been done, and then who have made it. Okay, so and it also allows you to revert the changes that from the previous state. So for example, if you have seen when you use any Android app or any iOS app or any application, so there is always a version associated with it. Okay, So the moment you install it on very first time, okay, probably after 10 days or 20 days, there comes the update again. Okay, so you go to a Play Store and then you click OK, update that. So what exactly that is? So that is sort of versions coming along with your app, right? And in each version, there will be sort of new features and some sort of improvements. Okay, so for example, in the new change, okay, I'm making an application, for example, hypothetically saying if I have an app which actually automates the announcement, social media announcement of some user group. Let's say GDG Madurai want to do some sort of announcement, okay, over a different platform, let's say Twitter, Facebook, and all, and they came up with the app. So what they do basically, the moment they just put some text, it actually goes to different platforms and then announces it. Okay. Now think they come up with an update. There isn't some sort of fancy feature where you can also add the images and all stuff, and then it's live now. And then I get that latest app. Okay, I install it and then I use it now. So what happens right now is like there are some bugs, and now developers from GDG Madurai want this app to go to previous version. Okay, so that's what called is as a revert to previous state. So there should be mechanism to do that with the code as well, right? Okay, so Git or in terms of version control system allows you to do that. And then there was one more variant called distributed version control. What exactly that is? So there are a lot of version control systems like SVN and all sort of things. They all version control system have a different models of working, whereas SVN has a centralized where there will be a server, and then all codes will be there. Okay, you will be responsible to completely like in sync with that code, and you have to do sort of activities there. So if you want to add new codes or if you want to edit something, you have to keep communicating with the server, and then so that's like a one-way model. And whereas in Git is a distributed version control, whereas the code will be there on server as well, and on individual developer system will have something called local repository again. Server, of course, will have a main repository, and after the server, developers who are, or the entire team which is working on the same code base, will be having a different local repositories. Local repositories mean you as a developer will be having the same code copy of the file in your system, in your laptop, in your machine. So whenever changes happen, you can actually develop in your local system and then you can push it to server, and this vice versa again. So if there are any changes in server, you can just fetch the code or pull the code and then rebase it with your existing local repository likewise. So this is what exactly distributed version control looks like. So in the nutshell, Git is basically, if you have seen this thing, I'm not sure whether you have seen this meme. So it's like Git is a tool, like a CLI tool where people you do collaborative work with the entire team, okay, and then it is completely based on graph tree version, and then you use sort of commands to update the files, to delete the files, to push the code to the repositories, to the servers, and then get the code from the server, sort of things. So this is basically Git in nutshell. So you don't, if nothing works, just delete the file and then again download it and then start the working. But that's just a joke. You should not do that. That's not a good practice to do it. So in short, whenever so the moment you start using Git, your lives get easier. I'll tell you one more thing. There was a scenario. I won't reveal the company name as well. So I was there was one friend of mine. So she was actually doing a development because she was a developer, and then in that organization they didn't know how to use Git, and what they were doing, it's completely shocking. So they were transferring the code through a mail. That was like, how can you do that? If there are different people in parallel doing a lot of changes in the same code base, how will you come to know which code is the final code? Email is for communication. I have seen people sharing code over an email. That's pathetic. Like, for example, if I do some changes and there is a person X, so if I do some change, I'll send a code to X again, and then if X does some change, that person will again send me the code over email, and that's how it works, right? And that's completely wrong practice to do it. And to avoid this kind of situations, we use Git. Okay, and there are other version control system as well, but today we want to talk about Git. So in short, You don't have to send emails like basically a code emails to anyone. Just Git is enough. So that was like a little glimpse of Git, and now coming to a part of GitHub, what exactly it is. Sorry. So basically, GitHub, there are a lot of difference. I'm gonna cover like in one line in the next slide. So GitHub is basically a cloud-based Git repository hosting system. So whatever repositories, Git repositories you have, like Git repositories are basically a code base, just to say in layman term. Okay. So the GitHub is basically a hosting service for your Git repositories. Okay. There are plethora of features available for GitHub. Okay. And so I have just shared like a few examples. You can share the code, you can create issues, you can do PRs, and you can also create the tags for your code versions. You can do a complete CI/CD pipeline, a DevOps pipeline there itself. Okay, you can set that completely. Okay, so there are a lot of features available. Just to give you a little glimpse, like you can do like n number of things with GitHub. There are a lot of features coming in future right now. There's something called Github Actions, where you can actually set up entire CI/CD pipeline and all stuff. So just to give you an analogy of what GitHub is, so it's like, just consider it as a Google Drive or Google Photos for your code. Okay, so there is some place in the cloud you're gonna upload that. Okay, your code will reside there itself, and whenever you want to get that, you will just fetch it. So to do the communication between your GitHub and with your local repository, the tool which we use is Git, basically, to manage everything. So if you know what GitHub is, you can go to github.com and then you can log in and create an account. I'm going to show that in like a few minutes again. So the main difference between Git and GitHub is like Git is a tool. Okay, it's like a CLI tool. Okay, where that tool is responsible for managing the change of code, containing the history, and then other details, what sort of differences are there. For example, if there is a file called abc.txt, and again there is a file called abc.txt, which is residing in a server, but this abc.txt is in local. So what are the difference between them if I merge, and then even if I update abc.txt in local itself, what are the changes has been done? So all sort of tracking, basically file tracking, code everything has been taken care of Git. So that's a Git tool. Okay. Whereas GitHub is a service for projects that use Git. Okay. So projects which use Git, GitHub is a service for that, a hosting service, basically, in short. So this is like a basic illustration to understand what exactly Git and GitHub is. Okay. So in your local system, these are three different machines depicting the local workstation of individual developers. Each local machine will have a local Git repositories, okay, and then this local repositories will be actually hosted on GitHub. So this is like a basic understanding of why you can, how Git and GitHub is relatable to each other. There is GitHub and Git is not same, okay. It's like you have a photos that's in the Git repository, and then Google Drive is GitHub. So you just push there and then you get the new, if someone has uploaded the new photos in Google Photos, you also fetch that, sort of this thing, just to give you a basic example. Yeah, so that was done very quickly. I'll gonna show you like a quick example of entire thing. So I'm gonna cover a lot of commands, basic commands like git init, git status, git add, push, how to create a branch, okay, how to do a PR, okay, and then other sort of terminologies which we're gonna use very frequently in Git. So let's move to the. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and just give me a minute. Okay, one second. Fine. So till that, if you have any questions, let me just look into the comment section if we have any questions. Okay, I guess we are not having any questions. Fine. So the very first step is to go to github.com. Okay. Actually, that's the second step. I'll tell you what is the first step is. I'll share my entire screen rather than the application. I'm really sorry for this. Screen. So if you go to git-scm.com, you can download the Git for your individual systems, like whether you are on Mac, Linux, or Windows. The Git tool is available everywhere. So in Linux, it's pretty easy to install Git. You can just do, like, depending on the distribution, you can just do apt-get install or yum install Git, and that would work. Whereas in Windows and Mac, you have to install the bundler and then you can do it. So I have already installed it in my local, okay, and there are a few more steps that I would be skipping it because I have already configured a lot of things, but don't worry, I will explain you what are these things. So go to this page, download it, and then go to your terminal, assuming that your, I hope my screen is visible. If you can't see my terminal, just let me know. I'll just zoom in a little bit more. Okay, so one second. You can, once the Git is installed, you can actually do check what version you have for Git, and then if it is successfully installed, it will show you output like this. Okay. So yeah, we are good to go now. So before that, I'm gonna create one directory where we can, whatever code we are writing will be available there, and we'll push that. Okay. So I'll go with git demo one, and I'll do git demo one. Okay. Now, if you see, if I do ls, there is nothing inside this folder. So the very first step of initializing a repository is to use the init command. So what init command does is, like, whenever you type git init, it will initialize a git repository inside the current folder, okay? And that that file will have, a lot of information regarding the source, and then upstream information, all sort of things. So I'm not going to talk about how basically Git is built on, because there are a lot of internal parts. For example, a Git works on snapshots and creates a block for each commit and each file, and stores the hash for each commit. So I can show you that in the Git Clock part, definitely. So I'll go ahead and I'll do git init. So if you see here, it has initialized empty Git repository, okay? So if you see here, this is .git file, okay, which is there. So yeah. So I have initialized Git init. Now there are 2 to 3 approaches of doing the same thing. Either you can go directly to a github.com and create a new repository, okay, and then come here and then do git init and clone the thing, clone the repository, sorry. So I'll just go here. Just notice that I am on github.com. If you haven't created an account, just go and do a sign up. One second. If you go to github.com, this is how it will look like, and then just give your username, whatever you wanna keep. User, I know it's like very low, and then your email ID, abc@github.com, and the password, and then do a sign up for GitHub. Once that is done, you can have your profile set up, everything like that, just like how it is visible here. So to create a new repository, you go to github.com, go to your profile. I'm in sign in. Go to the top right corner, and if you see here, there is the plus button. Click on that and say new repository. And I will name this as, let's say, git demo _1. Okay, and I'll just give some sort of description, which is like this repo is for git demo. Please let me know if you have any questions till now, or if you want me to stop or be a little slow, or if anything that's interrupts. I just let me just have a look into the comments if people have a comment or any question in YouTube live chat. Okay, there is no question. Fine. So if you go here, there are two types of repository. If you can see here, one is public and another one is private. Okay. So public repository is something when people visit your profile, it will be visible to them. And private repository is, of course, it will not be visible to public. So usually, whenever you see a open source project, that's a public repository by default. And then big organizations which have their proprietary softwares and all, they create a private repository so that like it's their private code, it's their product. So like that. So I am going to create a public profile, and there is whenever you create a repository, it always asks you. Let me just zoom in. So if you see here, it asks initialize this repository with Readme. So Readme file is like a descriptive file where it states the thing about your repository, what this repository is all about, and how to set up this project. Okay, what are the different dependencies? If I want to use this project, how I can set up this into my local machine. Okay, so Readme files are usually like that, but I'm not gonna initialize readme.md file here. Rather, I will go and create in my local machine. So I'll just go ahead and create a repository. So once you go and create a repository, GitHub is really like it's very helpful for developers. So like even if a new person is coming and getting a repository, he or she don't have to worry about it. So we have already initialized the repository. Okay. So there are two options. If you see, my bad. Sorry. So this option says like, okay, you can create a new repository on the command line like this. Then you have to follow all sort of these steps. Okay. And if you have already created a Git repository, what you can do is you can just add these two commands here. Okay. So since we have already created the repository here, I will just copy this. Okay. I'll just do that in some time. Before that, let me just add Readme File in here. So, second. And I'm going to use VS Code as a text editor. Okay. And there are some amazing tools or plugins available in VS Code. I will also tell you, if you don't like command line, that's fine. I mean, if you are not a person that likes, command line tools, you can definitely go ahead and do a GUI based Git push and all stuff. Not an issue. So I'm already in this folder. Okay, there is no file. Okay, nothing is there. But before getting started, just make sure that if you are using VS Code or something, some tools like that, even in Sublime, there are a lot of nice plugins which will take care of the tracking file and all. You don't have to worry about all the CLI tools. So I use this tool called Git Lens, which tracks all the branches and all stuff. So probably you can use that. And by default, I guess VS Code comes with the extension of Git, so you don't have to worry. So I'll tell you, I'll show you how it works now. So I'll go here and I'll say I'll create a readme.md file. I'll go here. Okay, so see this. I opened the code editor in the same folder. Now this extension tells me that, hey, you have actually created an empty readme.md file. So behind the scene, actually Git is tracking your files. Okay, Git knows, okay, this is the readme.md file that has been created now. So just close this. Sorry. So I'll just go here and say This is Git demo. I'll do Control S, and I'm gonna use probably the integrated terminal now, because I have to switch it back again and back and forth. So I don't want to do that. So this is my terminal now. Just have a look here. So if I say now, so git init was, I hope the git init is clear. To initiate the git repository, we use git init command. And now there is one more command which is called as git status. So what status does is it will keep a track of the files which are being modified or added, okay, like that. So if I do git status, here it tells me that there is an untracked file by the name of readme.md, okay, and nothing added to commit, because of course I haven't done anything with that. I just added this data to the file, and then that's all I did. Okay. Now, so again, there are three parts, and I hope one second, I'll just quickly give me a second. Okay. So in Git, basically, whenever you use Git in your local system, okay, so there are always two parts, okay. So one is called as working directory, in which directory you are working on, and second is called as staging area. So staging area is something that Git takes care of. Okay? So the moment you do any changes in the files, okay, and if you add that changes into staging area, and then that gets added into your actual Git repo. I mean, the branch, or if you want to push it to remote server. Okay. So git status, let us like that command lets us know, like, hey, these are the files that are untracked. Fine, I'll just clear my screen now, and then I'll say git add and the file name. Okay. There is a other way as well, where once again, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So a good question by Urvashi. She asked, yeah, I was just looking into comments. Thanks a lot for reminding me. So if you have seen here, by default, there is something called master. What is that exactly? Okay, nobody asked this question. Thanks, Urvashi, for following this up. So whenever you create any new repository, okay, by default, a branch by the name of master gets created. Okay, that's the default branch. And in further session, I will explain you what exactly the branch and what sort of branching is there. So master is basically a branch which is like all the codes, all the files will be actually residing on that branch. So that's the master branch. By default, when you create a repository, it comes along with that, or when you do a git end as well. So now I'm gonna do the git add. So I added this file, okay, and I wrote something here. I did a tracking of that. I did git status. I came to know, okay, this is the changed file. Now you can add the files to staging area that I spoke earlier by doing git add and then the file name. Okay, now it's been added here. So if you are using this command, if you are using VS Code text editor, it's very easy for you to visualize what exactly is happening. Okay. Go here in the extension, in the git change extension. Previously, this read.md file was under changes dropdown, but now it's inside the stage changes. So which means whatever file we have created, okay, we added that file inside the staging area. Staging area is where actually Git assigns signatures, basically a blob object to each file change and then their name. So that goes inside a staging area. Okay, so if you are not sure what are the files that you have added in Git staging area, you can definitely have a look into this area, like the Git extension part. So it clearly says, hey, there's this file which is being staged. And also, if you see here, this extension, instead of doing through command line, you can directly like do unstage and stage there as well in the UI itself. And I will also keep looking into the comment box. Just so that people are with me. I hope that questions your that answers your question, Urvashi. Okay. So now I have added the thing. Now, the moment you add anything, you have to commit. Okay. So commit is basically it's a proof that tells the Git, hey, now these files are changed. Okay. Now you have to add them with the other information. So commit always have 2 to 3 information, actually more than that. So it takes care of which user is changing it, the timestamp when it got committed, and as well as the message that we're gonna do. So git commit -m actually tells you a part of message. -m represents the message part if you want to do it. And there is also a command called git commit -a flag. So using a flag, you can actually add all the commits. So you don't have to do git add again. You can directly do it with git commit space -a -m and then do it. Okay, so it says okay. In master branch, we have added readme.md file. Okay, and if you look here, sorry. If you look here, like there is something, right? Like some numbers are associated with it, some alphanumeric numbers. So basically, that's the hash code for each commit. So whenever you do a single commit, Git generates a hash code, a signature for each commit. Okay. And now it says okay, one file changed, one insertion, and create mode is basically states that okay, the file has been created. Now what? There's something called Git Clock where you can watch the history. So if you see here, I'm also looking. Okay. So if you see here, it says a commit ID. What is the commit ID? It says the master. Okay. I'll tell you what exactly the head is. Okay. And then the author, Abhishek Mishra, and then my email ID, the date, then the message here. So by default, when you do Git log, it opens in a default editor, basically in Vim, I believe. And so once you're done, you can just type the Q and then you can exit it. So now in Git log, we can see, okay, this is the history. Basically, Git log is for history, just like our bash tools, we used history command. Okay, fine. Urvashi, I'm going to answer your question why good commit messages are important in the later on. Just let me explain like what is the basic Git process. So after doing the Git log, so now this everything entire changes in my local machine. I want to push it to GitHub. Okay. Now I have added this file here. If you see, I have readme.md, but it's not there. It's not there in my repository. There is nothing. It says you don't have anything right now. So what is the next command? So now we have created a new file. Okay. We added into a staging area. We did a commit for this file. Now what? Now I want to push this file to my remote server. So there is a command. Let me just clear. There is a command called git push. Now see what happens. Okay. Oh, what's that? It says. So whenever you type a command, okay, I'll just give you more basic explanation. So basically, it says git push where you're supposed to push. Okay, so that part has to be added in git configuration, right? And also, I'm really sorry, I missed one more part. You have, if your git username and email ID are not configured, you have to do that before pushing to a repo. I'll show you the command once again. So this is how you can set your configuration. So for example, this is basically for authentication purpose, okay? Because there should be some identity, like a legitimate user from a GitHub is actually using or creating this repo and then pushing the code there, right? So you can do git config -- global if you want to do it. You can also do a local thing, user email ID, and this email ID is basically the same email ID you signed up using GitHub, okay, during that time. So just make sure you have that. I have already I have already done this configuration, so I'm not going to do that again. And same goes for git config user dot name. Okay, you can do that, and then you can mention Abhishek or something like that. So according to your username and then the email ID. Okay. So this I'm sorry, like this was initially, this was supposed to be done initially. So now if you want to do this git push, it says you need an URL, okay, where this repository gonna be, like a remote repository, and which is nothing but this thing. Okay. So what we can do is we have to add the remote repository where we want to push this code. So I can simply copy this command, and I will say okay. So that command has a URL, this URL where our code is there. If you see here, this is the remote git URL, okay? So where your code gonna be on a remote server, on a GitHub. And then in second line, it says git push to origin master. So basically, a remote is always, like a remote server always, repository always has a name, okay? So by default, it's origin. Whenever you create any repository on GitHub, by default, the master branch and then the name of the remote will come as the origin. I'll show you the command to how you can look into that. So if you do git remote, see, you will come to know, okay, then the name of the remote is origin. And that's what this command did. Git push to the origin. Right now, don't bother about this -u flag. That's for upstream. That is not required. You can directly do git push. Even if I do right now, it will say there is nothing to push. It says everything is up to date because in previous command I already did git push. So whenever you are doing git push, you have to mention the remote server, I would say repository. So I'll say git push origin. That's all. I have actually configured my CLI with some sort of plugins, so it just gives me a repeated commands, okay, just for suggestion. So please ignore that. So these two both are same, okay, the git push and git push origin, because there are a lot of in various scenarios you might have different remote repositories. One might be from another organization, one might be from another organization. So you can actually rename it, okay? You can create a new repository, a remote server name, etc. So by default, it's origin. So this is like a basic thing. Now, if you go here, let me refresh it. So I am here in Git demo 1, and if I see, oh wow, that's great. So I did git push, and then I could see the readme.md file is there, and then this is exactly same as this is Git demo, which was here. Right? So the basic flow of whenever you create any repository with Git is you do a git init. Second step is to go and create a GitHub repository there. Okay, copy the URL. You can also clone it. I'll show you how to do cloning. I'll do in demo 2. Okay, so clone is basically like whatever URL you have for this repository, you will just copy this thing. Okay, and you will say, I'll say git clone. I'm into different directory if you see that. I am not in, right now I'm in home directory. Okay. Previously I was in this directory. So don't get confused. I'm just trying to explain you how what git clone is exactly. So I would have done this way as well. So instead of doing okay, 1 second, I'm sorry. So I just copy pasted the same URL, and I'll say git clone, and then it will actually, clone is basically it will copy all the files and then into the same format of git. Okay. So if I go here, I'll see, where is that? 1 second. there is the file. I just cloned it, git demo _1. So it's just the same thing. So I can just go to git _ demo 1, and then here if I do ls, I can see the same file. Okay. So git clone is also there. You, instead of directly creating an, I told you initially there are two ways. Either you can initiate with the git init, or you can just existing code can be initiated with git init and then copy the GitHub code URL, remote URL. That's all. So now I'll go to git. Where was I? Git desktop. Okay, 1 second. Give me a minute. It's not saying there's no desktop. I'm sorry for this. Okay, so we have successfully pushed our code here. Now, second part, what I'm gonna show you is, so just to keep a talk, just to give a small summary, we initiated the repository, created the repository, and then we added a Readme file, okay, and then we did a commit to a file, and we pushed to a repo. Okay, I hope there is no doubt till now. If there are any, please let me know. Okay. So now second part I'm going to talk about is the branch. What exactly is branch? Okay. So if you see here, this is called as branch. So branch is something which contains the base code from the master branch, and so whenever I'm sorry. So in a development team, we do a sort of developments. For example, there will be a front end development, there will be back end, and there will be a lot of things happening in parallel, right? So it's not advisable to do everything inside the same branch, which is master, right? Because everything mess up, because that's the main code. Okay, if you try to manipulate everything in the master branch, it will blown away. It really. So branch will create simply a one sort of, just consider it as a folder again. It's not a folder, just to give you an visualization part. So, so when you create a branch, it will have all those codes from the master branch to a new branch. So you can add new codes, new feature, or whatever changes you want in the new branch, okay, without changing anything into a master. And how to create a branch, I'll tell you right now. So either you can directly do it from GitHub, or I would rather say to do it from Git. So git branch is a command which will tell you on which branch currently you are on. Okay, so if I do git branch, it will say, okay, currently I'm on master. Okay, so what to do if I have to create a new branch? Okay, I'll do git branch hyphen git checkout. I'll say git checkout hyphen b is for creating a new branch, and I'll say feature. Okay, what it will do is it will create a new branch called feature. So if you see my changes here, I'm into a new branch now, right? So I can actually add whatever I want. So for example, you have a website, okay, and in that website you have a lot of like SPS, CSS file, HTML files, okay. There is a JS application which does a lot of things. If you want to add a feature on top of that, you will not directly write a code inside a master branch, okay. So the rule is like you have to create a new branches for features, okay. So whenever, for example, if you have a calculator application, if you want to add a multiplication feature to the calculator, you will not directly add into a master branch. Rather than that, you will create a new branch from the master branch, like I did, and then add code for multiplication. Now, currently, I am in feature branch. If you see here, what I can do right now is I can say go here, I'll say I want to create a new file, which is called as feature.txt. Okay. In this, I will write, here is the feature one. I'll just save it. Again, the same process. I'll check again, Git status. It says feature.txt is there. I'll say git add. So now there is one more option. If you want to add all, let me just clear it. It's 2 down. You can say git add and then feature.txt. And there is also an option called git add dot. So what it does is whatever changes you have done, it will add them into a staging area. Okay, we don't want to do that because that's not a good practice to do git add dot. Even if you accidentally do, no, not an issue. You can just go here and you can check what are the changes. Okay. I guess I have already done it right. So again, try git status. There is one file also git add. Okay, it's been added. And so now after adding, you do commit. I'll say. So just a thumb rule, how I usually do the commit messages are like, the commit messages are like, should be assertive sentence. Like for example, instead of having added feature.txt, it should define what this commit will do, right? If you always follow this sentence, what this commit will do, then you have to write message after that. So just follow this pattern. So I'll say what this commit will do. So it will create, this commit will create feature.txt. So the commit messages are important. I'll tell you why. Because if you are working on a project and let's say you leave the organization, but if there are some bugs, okay, if anything goes wrong, after at least looking into one commit, a person should be able to understand what this commit does exactly. Okay, it should not be vague. It should not be ambiguous. It should be very unambiguous, like should be very clear what this commit does. And never follow the pattern of adding a bulk file addition or bulk changes into a single commit. It shouldn't be like that. Hey, like you are doing like 15 to 16 changes in one commit if that's independent. So I usually follow the thumb rule of doing assertive sentences if you try to do commit messages. So always do that. So again, I did git commit, and if I check now git log, just take a look. It's a feature branch. I'll do git log. It says add.readme, which I added previously and which is taken from the master. And now I'm in feature branch, which is right now what I did, right? Now let me show you the quick difference. If I have to switch between two branches, how do we do it? It's like git again checkout. There will be no such option called D because we have to check out to master, which already exists. So I'll say git checkout master. And I'll again see here git log. So there is no feature.txt, right? Because we are in master branch. Now I hope now you understood what is the exact difference between them. Okay. Now I'll again go back to feature branch and I'll push that to GitHub so that it will be very easy to see visually, right? So I'll just quickly check out to git checkout feature. I really wish to take this session as a complete workshop for 2 to 3 hours because that time we will be able to understand very better way. Because if you are new to Git, this might be a little bit vague to you because that way we can understand more. I can show you little more examples because now in this session we have little time constraint. So I'm sorry about that if it is going bouncer to it. So again, I'm just to check, like, okay, my create feature is there. I'll do clear, and then I'll do what is the next step after commit? We push, right? I'll say get push origin. That's all I'll say. Now, there's a problem. What is the problem? What is the error? Just quickly, let's have a close look into this. It says the current branch feature has no upstream branch, okay? Like, there is no such branch. We have created locally, but if you go here, there's only master branch, right? So whenever doing a push, okay, now what we are doing is we have created the branch locally. Now we are taking that and we'll say, hey, this is supposed to be go on a remote server. So we are trying to push there, but there is no such branch, so nothing will go, right? So to do that, we will usually do get push origin and the branch name. So it will be like feature, and then it will push it to master there. Sorry, remote server. So it says it pushed to github.com and then the repository name and what is the branch name, the name, right? And if I see now git branch, it says we have a branch. I'm currently on feature branch, which has a new commit called create feature.txt, and there is a master with the basic commit of add readme.md. Okay, that's good. Now let's go to, okay, so GitHub is too smart. Like whenever you push any branch, it will give you a notification on the page itself. Hey, there's a new branch. If you see here, so if you see here, this gives you a message like a feature had recent pushes less than a minute ago, and if you go here, if you see, hey, there's a feature branch again. So this feature branch was created in locally, and then we pushed it to a remote server. Now comes the interesting part. Okay, so I'm not gonna, like, I wanted to teach you how to delete a branch. We'll do that again. No worries. I'll tell you. So now if you see here, it says compare and do a pull request. Okay. So now imagine like this. You have a master branch. There was an existing feature, like the app was running very smooth. Now you created a new branch to add a new feature. Okay. Consider that the feature branch has a feature.txt file, which is supposed to be there in the master again. So the next step comes. So the next step is to do a PR. So I'm going to teach you. I'm just doing a very basic step so that you understand properly how exactly a developer lifecycle works with respect to Git and GitHub. So this is a traditional workflow what people usually follow. There will be a master branch. Like, okay, on top of that, if you want to add something new, any features, for each feature you will create a few branches. You write the code, push it to there, and then the time comes if you want to merge this feature branch to master branch, you do a PR, which is called as pull request. Okay, so I'll compare and do a pull request. So I clicked on compare and do a pull request, or else you can directly go to PR and then click there. So in pull request, it says which branch has to be merged with base branch. So base branch is master, and then feature is the one we added now, and we want to merge that into master. So I'll say added feature, right? So basically, whenever you do a PR, there is always a standard of doing the things. So people follow template for PRs, like they usually maintain a checklist. Okay, what this PR does, whether test cases are passing or failing, like that, and then what specific changes this PR will do, or what sort of feature this PR brings in. So we'll say added feature.txt, okay, and then you can also leave the comments where you can say, okay, this pull request will add feature of, let's say, showing the text. Okay, you can write it like the comment, whatever you want. So whatever the specific feature you have added into this. Okay, So I'll create, then you create a pull request here. Okay? You do click on create pull request. So once you go to pull request here, you will see, okay, there is a one pull request added feature.txt for the master. So how usually it happens is like, imagine this, there is a code inside this, and then the code will be reviewed by different team members. You can also assign reviewers here if you want to. Like right now, I'm not into an organization, it's my private record, but if, let's say if I want to assign someone, I can directly type the username and then they will review my code, they will approve it, and then they will merge the pull request, right? So let's say once this is done, I will directly say merge pull request. Everything looks fine to me. Now I'll say merge pull request. I'll say confirm merge. And then this branch got merged into this. Now let's go and see. Boom, we've added this. Now in master, we have feature.txt. Correct? It was not there before. Right? Now, these changes are done on a remote server, right? But in your local system, if you go, if you do git checkout master, and if I do git log, nothing is there. It just says add readme.md. Whereas in this master, it says there are two files. How we do it? So here comes the next git command, which is really handy. Something called git fetch. What git fetch does is, if you remember, initially we added a remote URL, or the origin basically. So it will go to the origin and it will say, hey, whatever changes are there, let me pull that thing, okay, and then give it to you. It will do that sort of thing. So I'll say git fetch. So the paradigm of git fetch and git push is like, if you want your local changes to be there on server, you do git push. If you want the server changes or remote changes in your local repository, you will do git fetch. I'll say git fetch. So it says like there are some new commits happened with this ID on a master. Okay. Now if I go to, there are two options. Either you can do rebase or you can do a pull. So what pull does is like is okay, I should have done that again. So now I'll merge this again. It's already done. Git rebase master. Master is up to date. Let me do git clock. So basically here I'm saying I fetch the code from the remote server. Now I'll say, hey hey local master branch, which is on my local machine. I'll say you are supposed to rebase with the actual code which is there on the remote master, which is like origin master. So I'll do that. And now if I do git log, awesome. It says we have the initial code commit, add readme.md, create feature.txt, which is from key feature. And now if you see, there is something new here. What is that? So there is an extra commit being added for the pull request that we did. So it got merged. So whenever you merge two branches, okay, it generates a new commit and comes into the commit history again. So that's why it's there. So now one second. So now if you see here, we have both the files, feature.txt, readme.txt, and the same thing here. So now we learn how to create a PR and then how to merge them. So this was the example of doing merging from here itself. My usual process, I don't do git pull or git merge. This is my usual process. I try to do git fetch and then I rebase it. Okay. Even I don't use a GitHub UI for doing a rebasing thing because I don't want to add the merge extra commit for that. There are different parts. That sort of advanced part, I'm not gonna cover that. So we learn how to do PR again. Okay, one second. So I guess we are almost there. So the git status is done, git init is done, commit is done, push is done. We didn't do pull because I did rebase and fetch. So fetch, whatever changes are there, it will do that, and then rebase will change your code base with the existing origin master branch. So that's how I did it. Apart from that, there is also a command called git pull. Let me just show you right now. For example, if I want to do a new pull request, I'll just go here. I'll just go here. I'll say add a new file, create a new file, okay. And I will say feature2, okay, feature2 dot txt. And I'll say here we go with another feature. Now if you see here, by default GitHub gives you a commit message. You can accept it or you can write it according to you. Now there are two options. Either I can add this file to an existing master branch, or I can create a new branch. So I have shown you how to create a new branch from CLI itself. Now I'm going to use this thing to do a new branch. So I'll say feature2, and I'll propose a new file. Don't follow this standard. I'm just showing you so that you can get a familiarity with this thing, okay? Never create a branch from GitHub itself. Try to do it from your local machine and then do it. So I directly created a PR here now. So I'll say added feature, and then I can again do a pull request. Now if you go and see in code, there are three branches. One is master, second is feature, which is already there, and then third is the feature2. But if you go here, it says there are only two branches, right? One is feature, one is master. How do I get the latest one? So again, the same process. You can do git fetch and then you can do accordingly, right? So this was one option I wanted to show you. You can also create branches from GitHub itself, but that is not a usual process. You should create it from bottom, like from a local machine. Now, if I go ahead and if I merge this pull request, confirm merge, and again, if I go to code and if I go to master branch, it will say feature.txt, feature2.txt, but in here I still have feature.txt and add readme.txt, or rather to say, you can look into here, like there are only two files. So how do I get to know about whatever latest changes are there has to be merged in the master, right? So there's a command called git pull. So git pull is actually a combination of two commands, git fetch plus git merge. So what it does is it will fetch whatever updated codes are there from the origin repository, okay, to the local repository, and it will merge the existing branch. Okay, it will merge the existing branch with that updated branch. I mean the local with the master one, with the remote one. So I'll say git pull. I can also mention the origin, but I don't really want to do it. So I'll say git pull. So if you see here, it says fast forward, one file change, insertion, and done. And let's again look into the Git log. Amazing. So here we see another log which is says like feature 2 has been added. So just to be clear, you can look into here. So now we have feature 1, feature 2, and readme. So this was from master, this one from feature 1 branch, this is from feature 2 branch. And now again you can look into the git branch and then okay. Okay, so we covered like all the basic stuffs like creating a files, pushing it, and then doing a pull git pull, which does fetching the file and then merge the two branches. We did everything, which was like very basic thing. So this is the usual process how you do it. You whenever you want to create a new feature, just create a new branch and then add it. I'm not gonna take more time. I hope like we are out of time. There are two more things I'm gonna show you right now. Meanwhile, I'll also look into, if you have any questions, please let me know. So there is one, okay. Why git fetch and git pull are two different commands? Because they do. Okay, I'll take the question at the end. Sorry about that. So you have seen that we created a lot of branches, right? Feature 1, feature 2. So we call it as a workflow, or rather to say as a strategy. So basically, typically people follow these two workflows. First is called as GitHub workflow, and then second is called as Git workflow. So GitHub workflow is that which I showed you all. Okay, so it's like there will be a one single master branch, and on top of that you will keep creating the feature branch, and then when everything is fine, you will merge feature branch to master branch like that. Okay, and in Git workflow, it's a bit complex and the projects are also used. So there will be a different branches for each cycle. So for example, for release, there will be a different branch. Okay. So for patch fixes, there will be a hot fixes, there will be a different branch. Okay. And and there will be a development branch as well. So for example, the master branch will be responsible for the currently running production code. They will be responsible for development code, which is ongoing with a lot of developers and with the remote team wherever people are. And then release branch is like the development is done. Okay, one of the branch development is done, feature is also fixed, and it's ready to be released. So that will be inside a release branch. I guess we are running out of time. I'm not going to explain you all this workflow. Probably we can take another workshop. I really would like to explain you all the stuff. So there is one YouTube video I would recommend to watch that. So here is the thing. The channel name is GitHub Training and Guides. You can look into the workflow there. So this is the basic process people follow. I'll just let me have a look like whether I'm missing anything else. I have explained you the pull, the rebase, the branch, fetch, commit, add, init, configuration, how do you set up your basic thing. Git log also we looked into it, and we also looked into a git remote. We also added a git remote origins. Okay. The only part remaining was I did not teach you how to do a revert. Probably I'll teach you in the next session if I do. So the basic conclusion is don't keep your code inside your machine. So in case of fire, just do git commit, git push, and then leave the building. So that's the conclusion. And I'm really excited to like look into the questions, because I know like it was still not clear. I believe I'm not sure. But I would love to answer your questions after this. So these are the few resources you can look into this. It's like there are plethora of resources, but these are the best one. I would say I have also learned. So git-scm.com/doc is the official documentation, explains everything about Git workflows, what is the best strategy and all stuff. Okay. And to learn more about Git, you can go to lab.github.com. They have an animated, all sort of visualization stuff. You can look into this. They also have a documentation, and there is also called guides.github.com. It's all about GitHub. And if you want to know more about branching, go to this URL called learningbranching.js.org. Wait, I'll do one thing. I'll just open it one by one so that you understand what exactly it is. So if you go to lab.github.com, they have a different courses here. You can look into it again. And then same goes for, wait, it opens the same in what? Learning branching.json. So this application is really nice. Like, if you are not sure how does like everything works, like how do you add and how do you create the branches and all, you can actually look into this. If you go to introduction to Git commit, it will explain you what are the Git commits, and then you can also do a practical. So if I say okay Git commit, it will show me like one commit got added here from commit 0 to commit 1 and then commit 2 in the master branch. And likewise it will explain you a lot of things. So it's very easy to understand here. If you didn't understand anything from my session, you can visit to this site and it will explain you everything. And there is also a YouTube channel, as I mentioned, GitHub training and guides. You can follow them as well. I guess that's all. Thank you so much for listening me. And I'm really sorry if I've been fast during this session. And if anything is still confusing, please let me know. I will explain it again. I was like a little bit restricted to the time. That's why I couldn't, took a long pause and then explain the things. So thank you so much again. I'll just stop my share.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abhishek, for the wonderful session. And
sorry, yeah, continue. Shall I take questions?
I mean, okay. And one more thing, here we have Mr. Sendil Kumar with us for the session, and actually he is a CEO of Geometer Healthcare, and he would like to give us the summary of this entire session. And thank you so much, Abhishek, for giving the useful session. Actually, you covered all the basics of GitHub in detail. So usually the objective of organizing tech session is at least few of the participants will be motivated to learn this technology further. I feel you did that part. Once again, thank you so much, Abhishek. And also we have questions from the participants. So before that, I request Sendil Kumar to give summary of it. Please stay with us, Abhishek, for a few minutes.
Sure. And I'm sorry. I apologize for not taking the open source contribution part. So sorry for that. So thank you, Padmapriya and Cynthia. You can take it from.
Hi Abhishek, and thank you so much for joining us. It's all a lot of collaboration between the GDGs and accepting our request. And this session was very interesting. Even though I was there in the entire call, I have some queries. I'm a pro JIT coder, but still I have a lot of queries which your session really helped me to identify. So basically,
but yeah, I will try to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot for that. Actually, Abhishek, we accepted our request and then shared the complete hands-on experience of entire workflow of JIT and GitHub. Abhishek, forgive me, I will talk something in Tamil. So that the audience will get some better context. So the idea of this session for me is I'm going to summarize whatever you told in the regional language. That's
sure.
Yeah.
I wish I knew the Tamil language, but I know where the basic one. So yeah, continue.
Okay. So எல்லாத்துக்கும் வணக்கம். நம்ம இன்னைக்கு செஷன்ல வந்து என்னன்னா கிட் அண்ட் கிட்ஹப் பத்தி பார்த்தோம். ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆஃப் ஆல் இது ஓகே எனக்கு பேசிக்கா புரிஞ்சிருச்சு எல்லாமே, ஆனா நான் இதை எங்க இமிடியேட்டா யூஸ் பண்றது அப்படின்னு உங்களுக்கு கொஸ்டின் இருக்கும். அந்த கொஸ்டினுக்கு வந்து மேபி நீங்க எல்லாருமே இப்போ ஸ்டூடெண்டா இருந்தாலும் சரி, டெவலப்பரா இருந்தாலும் சரி, எல்லாருமே ரெஸ்யூம் வச்சிருப்பீங்க, உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூம் மெயின்டைன் பண்ணுவீங்க. நம்மளாம் நேச்சுரலா பாத்தீங்கன்னா ரெஸ்யூம் வந்து என்னன்னா ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஒரு ரெஸ்யூம் ப்ரிப்பேர் பண்ணி வச்சிருப்போம், அதை ரெஸ்யூம் 1 அப்படின்னு சேவ் பண்ணி வச்சிருப்போம். ஓகே, திருப்பி வந்து அந்த ரெஸ்யூம்ல ஏதாவது அப்டேட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா என்ன பண்ணுவோம்னா, இன்னொரு கம்பெனிக்கு அப்ளை பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா அதை காப்பி பண்ணி எடுத்துட்டு ரெஸ்யூம் 2 அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு செப்பரேட்டா நம்ம சேவ் பண்ணி வச்சிருப்போம். ஸோ எத்தனை கம்பெனிக்கு அப்ளை பண்றோமோ அத்தனை கம்பெனிக்கும் செப்பரேட்டா ஒரு ரெஸ்யூம் சேவ் பண்ணி வைப்போம். ரெஸ்யூம் 1, ரெஸ்யூம் 2, ரெஸ்யூம் 3 அப்படின்னு மல்டிபிள் காப்பீஸ் எடுத்து வச்சிருப்போம். ஜிட்டோட ஒரு பெரிய அப்ஜெக்டிவ் என்னன்னா, இந்த மல்டிபிள் காப்பியை வந்து உங்க சிஸ்டத்துல இருந்து அவாய்ட் பண்றதுக்கு அதுக்கு தான் வந்து இந்த பிரான்ச்சிங், இந்த லேபிளிங், இந்த கான்செப்ட்லாம் வருது. ஸோ நீங்க இமிடியேட்டா இந்த ஜிட்டை எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா உங்களுக்குன்னு ஒரு ஜிட்ஹப் அக்கௌண்ட்டை வந்து பிளே ஸ்டோர் அது கிரியேட் பண்ணிருங்க. லைக் ஜிட்ஹப்ல போயிட்டு அந்த அக்கௌண்ட்ல ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ப்ராஜெக்டா உங்க ரெஸ்யூம்ல ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட் கிரியேட் பண்ணுங்க. ஓகே, கிரியேட் பண்ணிட்டு ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டெப் நீங்க என்ன பண்ண போறீங்கன்னா, உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூமை வந்து டாக்குமெண்ட் ஃபைல்ல ஃபீட் பண்ணிட்டு அந்த டாக்குமெண்ட்டை இட்ஸ் அ வேர்ட் டாக்குமெண்ட் ஃபைல், அதை வந்து நீங்க டைரக்டா வந்து ஜிட்ஹப்ல அப்லோட் பண்ணிடலாம். இப்போ உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூம் இருக்கு. ஓகே, இதான் உங்களோட பேசிக், அதாவது ஜென்ரல் ரெஸ்யூம் அப்படின்ட்டு நீங்க ஒரு ரெஸ்யூமை வந்து நீங்க அப்லோட் பண்ணிட்டீங்க. இப்போ ஒவ்வொரு கம்பெனிக்கும் நீங்க என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க, கண்டென்ட்டை மாத்துவீங்க. இண்டிவிஜுவலா ஃபைல் சேவ் பண்றதுக்கு பதிலா நீங்க ஜிட்ஹப்பை யூஸ் பண்ணி ஜிட்ஹப் ஓப்பன் பண்ணா ஒரே ரெஸ்யூம் தான் இருக்கும். பட் அந்த ரெஸ்யூமை வந்து டிஃப்ரெண்ட் வெர்ஷனா நீங்க மாற்ற முடியும். ஓகே, ரெஸ்யூம் 1.0, ரெஸ்யூம் 2.0, ரெஸ்யூம் 3.0 அப்படின்ட்டு டிஃப்ரெண்ட் வெர்ஷனா லேபிளிங் உங்களால பண்ண முடியும். பட் நீங்க ஜிட்ஹப் ஓப்பன் பண்ணி பாத்தீங்கன்னா அதுக்குள்ள ஒரே ஒரு வேர்ட் டாக்குமெண்ட் தான் இருக்கும். பட் எந்த பிரான்ச்சுக்கு போறீங்களோ அல்லது எந்த லேபிளுக்கு போறீங்களோ அதுக்கேற்ற மாதிரி உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூமை வந்து நீங்க சேஞ்ச் பண்ணிக்கலாம். ஓகே, எந்த கம்பெனிக்கு ரெஸ்யூம் பண்றதுன்னு. சரி, இப்போ எக்ஸாம்பிள் வந்து உங்களோட ஜெனரல் ரெஸ்யூம் இருக்கு. இப்போ நீங்க கம்பெனி ஏக்கு வந்து இந்த ரெஸ்யூம் அனுப்பணும். அப்ப நீங்க என்ன பண்ணுவீங்க, அந்த கம்பெனிக்கு ரிலவெண்டா உங்க அப்ஜெக்டிவோ இல்ல உங்க எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸோ மாத்துவீங்க. இப்ப நீங்க ஒரு ப்ரோக்ராமர், ஆனா கம்பெனி ஏ வந்து என்னன்னா இந்த பர்டிகுலர் டெக்னாலஜியை கேட்டிருக்காங்க. லைக் ஜாவா ஓப்பனிங்காக அந்த கம்பெனி எடுக்கிறாங்கன்னா உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூம்ல வந்து நீங்க நிறைய ஜாவா ப்ராஜெக்டை பத்தி போடுற மாதிரி இருக்கும். அப்ப நீங்க என்ன பண்றீங்க, ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டெப் உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூமை ரெப்போல இருந்து க்ளோன் பண்ணி எடுத்துருவீங்க. எடுத்துட்டு அந்த கம்பெனிக்கு ஏற்ற மாதிரி ஜாவா ரிலேட்டடான இன்ஃபர்மேஷனை நீங்க அதுல ஃபீட் பண்றீங்க. ஃபீட் பண்ணிட்டு ஒரு பிரான்ச் மாதிரி கிரியேட் பண்ணி அந்த பிரான்ச்ல இருந்து நீங்க புஷ் பண்ண போறீங்க. இந்த புஷ் பண்ணும்போது என்னன்னா அந்த இதுக்கு ஒரு டேகிங் ஒன்று கிரியேட் பண்ணுவீங்க, லேபிளிங் சொல்லுவோம் அதுல ஜிட்ஹப்ல. ஓகே, ஸோ உங்களோட பேஸ் பிரான்ச்ல ஒரே ஒரு ரெஸ்யூம் தான் இருக்கும். ஓகே, உங்க நேம் போட்டு ஒரு ரெஸ்யூம் தான் இருக்கும். பட் நீங்க டிஃப்ரெண்ட் பிரான்ச்சையோ டிஃப்ரெண்ட் லேபிளிங்கோ பண்ற வழியா உங்களால வந்து மல்டிபிள் கம்பெனிக்கு வந்து ஒரே ரெஸ்யூமை மெயின்டைன் பண்ண முடியும். ஓகே, ஸோ இப்போ ஒரு கம்பெனி லேபிளிங் வேற மாதிரி கொடுத்தீங்க அப்படின்னா அந்த கம்பெனியோட நீங்க மாடிஃபை பண்ண ரெஸ்யூம் வரும். ஸோ ஜிட்டோட மிகப்பெரிய அட்வான்டேஜ் வந்து மல்டிபிள் காப்பியை நீங்க வந்து உங்க கம்ப்யூட்டர்ல ஒரே ஃபைலுக்கு சேவ் பண்ண தேவையில்லை. செகண்ட் வந்து நீங்க வந்து உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூம்ல வந்து ஒரு காலேஜ் ப்ராஜெக்ட் பண்ணிருக்கீங்கன்னு அசியூம் பண்ணிப்போம். ஸோ அந்த காலேஜ் ப்ராஜெக்ட்ன்ற செக்ஷன்ல உங்களோட டீமோட நீங்க வேலை பார்த்துருப்பீங்க. ஸோ நீங்க ஒரு வேலை பார்த்துருப்பீங்க, உங்க ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் வந்து அந்த ப்ராஜெக்ட்ல சம் கான்ட்ரிபியூஷன் பண்ணியிருப்பாங்க. இப்போ அதே ரெஸ்யூம்ல இருக்க அந்த ப்ராஜெக்டை மல்டிபிள் பீப்புள், ரெஸ்யூம் ஒரே உங்களோட ரெஸ்யூம் தான், பட் மல்டிபிள் பீப்புள் கேன் ஆட் டிஃப்ரெண்ட் ஃபீட்பேக் அந்த ஒரே ரெஸ்யூம்ல அவங்க கொடுக்க முடியும். ஸோ இது வந்து சிம்பிளான ஒரு விஷயத்துக்கு ஜிட்ஹப் யூஸ் பண்றது. ஜிட்ஹப் வந்து டெவலப்பர்ஸ் தான் யூஸ் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னு எந்த ஒரு கன்ஸ்ட்ரைன் இல்லை. நீங்க ஒரு டிசைனராக இருந்தால் கூட நீங்க ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் உங்களோட டிசைன் ஒர்க்கை ஜிட்ஹப்ல வந்து கமிட் பண்ணிட்டே வரலாம். இது எதுனா உங்களுக்கு ஒரு ஹிஸ்டரியை மெயின்டைன் பண்றதுக்கும் ஹெல்ப் ஆகும். லைக் டே 1 வந்து எவ்வளவு ஒர்க் முடிச்சிங்க, டே 2ல எவ்வளவு ஒர்க் முடிச்சிங்க அப்படின்றத நீங்க ஜிட் லாக் அப்படின்ற ஒரு கமாண்டை வச்சு நீங்க ப்ராக்ரஸா பார்க்க முடியும். ஒவ்வொரு நாளைக்கு நான் எவ்வளவு ஒர்க்கை நான் என்னோட இதுல முடிச்சிருக்கேன் அப்படின்றதுக்கு இந்த ஜிட் வந்து ரொம்ப ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லான ஒரு டூல். இதை ஃபர்தரா நீங்க இன்னும் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா we have send a feedback session. இன்னும் உங்களுக்கு ஹேண்ட்ஸானா வேணும், நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த ரெஸ்யூம் ப்ராஜெக்டை கம்ப்ளீட்டா நான் வந்து ஜிட்ல என்னோட ரெஸ்யூம் இனிமேல் வந்து நான் ஜிட்ல தான் வைக்க போறேன், ஜிட்ஹப்ல தான் வைக்க போறேன் அப்படின்னா we can take a hands-on workshop மாதிரி we will plan in upcoming sessionல we can plan. இந்த ஜிட்ஹப்ன்றது வந்து ஒரு டூல். இன்னொரு டூல் இருக்கு, அதோட பேர் வந்து ஜிட் லேப் அப்படின்னு சொல்லுவாங்க. ஓகே, ஸோ ஜிட்டு தான் வந்து இந்த ரெண்டுக்குமே ஃபண்டமெண்டல் பேசிக் வந்து என்னன்னா ஜிட்டு தான். ஜிட் லேப்னு ஒன்று இருக்கு, ஜிட் ஹப்னு ஒன்று இருக்கு. இந்த ஜிட் ஹப் எதுக்கு அப்படின்னா மோர் ஃபோக்கஸிங் ஆன் ஓப்பன் சோர்ஸ் ப்ராஜெக்ட். ஓப்பன் சோர்ஸ்ல இருக்க எல்லா ப்ராஜெக்டும் பண்றதுக்கு ஜிட் ஹப் வந்து உங்களுக்கு ரொம்ப ஹெல்ப்ஃபுல்லா இருக்கும். இப்போ நீங்க பிரைவேட்டா கம்பெனி ப்ராஜெக்ட் அல்லது உங்களோட ஓன் ப்ராஜெக்டை நீங்க பிரைவேட்டா பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா ஜிட் லேபை வந்து நீங்க யூஸ் பண்ணலாம். ஏன்னா ஜிட் லேப்ல உங்களுக்கு அன்லிமிட்டெட் பிரைவேட் ப்ராஜெக்ட் வந்து ஃப்ரீயா கிடைக்கும். ஓகே, நான் இமிடியேட்டா ஓப்பன் சோர்ஸ் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணணும் அப்படின்னா நான் ரெக்கமெண்ட் பண்றது மொசிலா. நீங்க மொசிலா வெப்சைட் போங்க, மொசிலால போயிட்டு அவங்களோட ஜிட் ரெப்போவை ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஸ்டெப் க்ளோன் பண்ணுங்க உங்களோட லோக்கல் கம்ப்யூட்டர்ல. நான் ஏதாவது வந்து அந்த ரீட்மி அல்லது டாக்குமெண்டேஷன் ஃபைல்ல சம் சேஞ்சஸ் பண்ணுங்க. சேஞ்சஸ் பண்ணிட்டு உங்களோட சேஞ்சஸை ஆட் பண்ணி கமிட் பண்ணி மொசிலாக்கு வந்து புஷ் பண்ணுங்க. புஷ் பண்ணிட்டு யூ கேன் சென்ட் ஒன் புல் ரெக்வெஸ்ட் மாதிரி அவங்களுக்கு அனுப்பலாம். நீங்க கொடுத்துருக்க அந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் வேல்யூபிளா இருந்துச்சு அப்படின்னா மொசிலா வந்து உங்களோட ஃபீட்பேக் அல்லது கமெண்ட்ஸை வந்து மெயின் பிரான்ச்சுக்கு லைக் மெர்ஜ் பண்ணிடுவாங்க, அந்த மாதிரி மெர்ஜ் பண்ணுவாங்க. ஸோ இந்த மாதிரி சிம்பிளான ஒரு ஓப்பன் சோர்ஸ் கான்ட்ரிபியூஷன் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்றதுக்கு பெட்டர் வந்து மொசிலா மாதிரி ஓப்பன் சோர்ஸை நீங்க இனிஷியலா ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணுங்க. அண்ட் தேங்க்யூ ஸோ மச் ஃபார் எவ்ரி ஒன். வி வில் சென்ட் அ ஃபீட்பேக் ஃபார்ம். உங்களோட நெக்ஸ்ட் செஷன் என்ன மாதிரி இருக்கணும், இதுல இன்னும் டீப்பரா போகணும் அப்படின்னா யூ கேன் ஷேர் வித் அஸ். அண்ட் தேங்க்ஸ் ஸோ மச் த என்டையர் டீம் who organized the event. And Abhishek, thanks a lot for your support and giving such a detailed explanation. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Senthil. You summarized a very basic, like a good things. So as Senthil mentioned, of course, it helps a lot in open source projects. You can go with Mozilla projects and all. And so the basic process of doing open source contribution is, if you are very new to it, you can go to any open source repositories, and you can pick the issues, and then you can clone the repository, and then you do the changes and do a PR. Probably I would glad to do a sort of collaborative session, a hands-on session on this, because this was a very basic. Now I'm feeling a little bit disappointed, because after setting up the expectations from the audience, definitely from next, if I do the next session, we will do a lot of one-to-one hands-on kind of thing, where we'll learn a lot of things. So Urvashi has a question: why Git Fetch and Git Pull are two different commands? Because they do the same process. Okay. So they don't do the same process, first of all. So Git Fetch, what it does is, it actually grabs every new updates from the remote repository to your local repository. So that's just one command. Whereas Git Pull is a combination of Git Fetch plus Git Merge. So it will also do a Git Fetch, and then it will merge that origin branch to your local branch. Okay. And then it will also generate a new hash commit when you do a merge. So that's the basic difference between Git Fetch and Git Pull. Okay, what is cherry? Okay, that's a good question. So basically, it's a Git technique. People use it to pick one commit from the top of any branch, and then put on the top of, or rather to say on head of another branch, to maintain the thing. So for example, there are two people writing the code, okay, and suddenly you got a new change from a master. Okay, it's coming inside your branch, your local branch. You just did a rebase or pull, whatever it is, and then now that feature is not working. Okay, but you are pretty sure on the previous command it was working flawlessly. So what you can do is, you can cherry pick. Basically, you can pick that particular commit and put on the top of that branch. Okay, so that's how it works. So it will be the head of that particular branch will be the one that you picked. Okay, so I guess I already pinged in the command to do the cherry pick. You can do git cherry pick space and then commit hash. Okay, so that's why cherry picking is used a lot of times, because a lot of times people mess up. Okay, while adding new commands or doing merge conflicts, a lot of things happens. Yeah, that's the command. I did that. So like it will pick the reference and then append on top of branch. That's how it does. Okay, so the rebasing is okay. That's again good question. I did that again. So the basic difference between merge and rebase is that, so in merge, whenever you do a merge, you basically combine two branches, and then the branch will have one more commit stating that, hey, these two branches are got. Whereas in rebase, the process is little bit different. So in rebase, the sequence of all commits will be on top of the existing branch. So for example, if I'm on a branch called master, okay, and there is a new branch called feature, okay, and if I have to merge, there is also an option using rebase. I can do that. So what I will do is, I will say, one second, yeah, I will say let git rebase origin master to the feature branch, so that whatever changes are there inside my master branch will get reflected into a feature branch. And then again, I will do the reverse process. So I will go to now master branch, and I will say rebase with the feature. What will happen is, the sequence of commits which are there in feature branch will be on top of master branch. Okay, so this way you can exclude or avoid the master, the extract merge commit, sort of that. But rebasing is not a good option if you are doing on a public repositories like open source repositories. You shouldn't be doing that. merge is usually a good option to go with that. So if you're working in a local, you can do rebasing. That's a good part. So it's just like a sequence of correct commits you can do that. So is there anything another similar to GitHub or GitHub, which is only thing which? Yeah, so there is a GitLab, I guess. So that's the famous one after GitHub. So you can probably look into that as well. How you make, say, how to do continue. Okay, that's a good question. So now you don't have to configure your third-party tool. So for example, if I have to do, can you make, is that a question you asking me to show how to do continuous integration in GitHub? Okay, you can make and say how to do continuous integration, and that's all. Okay. So I'll tell you the process. So for example, whenever you, so there will be a configuration file called, if you are using Travis, which is a third-party build tool, or now there is something called Github Action, which takes care of same thing. So what you will do is basically you will make a configuration file called build.yml, where you will define whenever any commit, okay, or any sort of incidents or any actions or any activity happens, do this thing. Just like IFTT, if this, then do that, sort of that. So what this will do is, in continuous integration, basically, the moment you push anything, it goes to a sort of process, staging area, and then testing part, sort of that. And if it passes all the test cases, then it will push to a master, and then it will directly go to your actual production. Okay, so that's how a basic thing works. So you have to create a build file, which is, you can do it with a Travis and then GitHub. Probably I should be able to do it in detail if I show you in demo. Is deploying that is a node in GitHub? Yes. There's a next question by the Sudarshini's. Okay. So the question is deploying apps that use Node.js in GitHub? Yes, it's possible. So deploying have a lot of sense here, like whether you wanna deploy that app through GitHub, okay, like somewhere on a server. Probably what you can do is you can write a GitHub Action script for that, and then it will take care of deploying it to your remote servers where you want to deploy it. Actually, you want to deploy it on AWS or GCP or Azure or any other web server, other third-party servers, or Netlify. And there is something called GitHub Pages as well, so you can host there as well. But GitHub Pages are only for static page, whereas I understand Node.js application will be sort of API level or something like that. So yes, it's possible to deploy apps on GitHub. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Oh, that's a good question. So Balaji has come up with a nice question, which is called as tags. So I did not explain a lot of stuff. I'm really sorry for that, because I had set an expectation to explain the basic thing. Then I am repeating the same thing again. We can do more workshop on this to do advanced part. So tagging looks like, let me just share my screen. Okay. I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, Abhishek.
Like, are my slides are visible, or are you able to see my browser? Okay, it's my slide. 1 second, I'll just remove it. Screen. Okay, so if you see here, there is something called tags. This is the repository of Kubernetes. So each tag works as a each tag works as a version. Okay, just like branches, you can create tags and you can check out to them and you can push them to actual working code. So for example, if you see here, so this is one tag, this is another tag. Okay, so basically tags are just like branch. So you create and then you annotate those changes, those branches with some version number, so that during release you can use these tags. So for example, even if you have to revert the changes, for example, there are again some bugs in version 1.18.6. you can again come back to version 18.5 or 17, something like that. So tags are responsible for managing the history, your changes, right, again, and you can easily revert them to the existing version, to the previous state. So that's the core, like a most powerful also feature of the Git. So you can do this way. Second. Sorry for like unsharing it again, because I wanted to show it. Yeah, if you have any other questions, please let me know. It was really knowledgeable. Okay, thank you. So tags are used for that.
I think we have no more questions from the participants. Yeah. Thank you, Abhishek.
Before I finish, I have one thing to share with everyone. Can I proceed with that?
Yeah, sure.
So thanks everyone again for joining in. Definitely, if time permits, I will be able to take more sessions of like workshop kind of thing. If GDG and WTM Madurai are planning to do workshops, I will be able to do more on open source contribution. So apart from that, if you know, I am a part of PyCon India organizing team. We are doing PyCon India this time online. It usually happens to be a physical conference, like a very huge conference in that, and you can also look into the previous year's conference. There are photos, videos available. So it is online, and from October 2nd to October 5th, there will be talks, workshops, and dev sprints. And if you are really interested in open source contribution, attend the dev sprint part, because in dev sprint, a lot of open source contributors come and the maintainers come with their projects, and they will teach you how to do contribution to their projects. So it's a good chance you will be interested in attending again. So there are talks, workshops, and dev sprints, and basically it's like a Python conference, but it's not only limited to Python. What you can do is, if you're interested in giving talk related to software engineering culture, you can do that. For example, empathy in software engineering, something like that. You can submit a talk again. So the CFP, call for proposals of PyCon India, are still open. Feel free to have submit a talk if you know someone who's really good in giving talks, or like you want them to see in a PyCon India, ask them to do so. So this is one thing. To follow us, you can also follow us on our Twitter @PyCon India for more updates. So thank you so much, and thank you GDG and WTM Madurai team for giving this opportunity. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you, Abhishek, for clearing all the doubts that participant had, and thank you, Mr. Sendil Kumar, for joining us today. It's our pleasure to have you both with us. And WTM Madurai is really thanking Github for being a great support. And last but not the least, thank you so much for all the participants who joined us today. Without you, it's not possible. Thank you all. And we have shared a feedback form with you all. So please do submit the form. We will send you e-certificate for attending the session. Hoping to see you all in our future events.
I would like to say Nandri, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please stay tuned to fight against coronavirus. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.